With my son, my firstborn, I suffered from postpartum PTSD.
I suffered from postpartum anxiety.
Major postpartum depression. Postpartum anxiety and PTSD.
And with my daughter, I suffered from postpartum depression and anxiety.
I will always struggle from some form of postpartum depression and postpartum OCD.
I didn't feel like myself anymore, and I was sad all the time.
It isn't normal, but it is common. Postpartum mood disorders like depression, anxiety, and OCD affect an average of 15% or more of new mothers. The first time you are asked about feelings of depression and anxiety isn't until your 6-week checkup after delivery, and for many women, the symptoms start much sooner. Tonight, you are going to hear from two moms with very different births. One, a perfectly healthy child, the other, a medically complex baby. And both mothers are sharing their experiences battling postpartum depression.
I'm so glad she's here. Me too.
It's a defining moment in a mother's life, the birth of her child.
Oh, you're pretty, huh? You're all messy.
And this new baby, named Winnie, was Jessica DeVos's third daughter.
Good job. That was so hard.
This is one of the first pictures that I took with her.
But right away, Jessica says she knew something felt wrong.
Everything was normal, but I felt that I wasn't.
What did you feel?
I felt a disconnect between me and her because I had had these two other children, which I think is helpful because I knew what it felt like to be immediately bonded, and I didn't feel that with Winnie. I didn't feel love for her. I tried.
Winnie was like a stranger.
I knew something was off. I didn't say anything because I thought, first of all, maybe I'm just tired.
Jessica did the things she knew she was supposed to do, all while remaining silent about her feelings to family, her husband.
I knew that I had postpartum. Like, I knew immediately in the hospital that this was happening. And it was depressing. It was very sad because I wanted to love her. I tried, and all I felt for this beautiful baby was obligation. That was the beginning and ending of my feelings.
Then there was the moment where she felt her absolute lowest.
I had this thought that I could take her to the hospital and drop her off, and that would be better for her because she could feel that I didn't love her. She was maybe 3 months old.
Hi, little honey.
Charlie, baby.
Sweet little baby.
At 20 weeks pregnant, Kelly Patterson was advised to terminate her pregnancy after their daughter was diagnosed with a congenital diaphragmatic hernia.
She had slim to no chance of survival, and that even if she did make it, that she would only live for maybe a few days.
But for Kelly and her husband, getting an abortion wasn't an option.
We had already lost 2 babies via miscarriage, and she had made it 20 weeks, and we were gonna at least be able to meet her, even if, long term we weren't gonna be able to keep her.
At birth, Charlotte, or Charlie as they call her, was immediately placed on life support. She spent 2 months in a specialized hospital.
She didn't cry. She barely made any noise, and she was pretty purple blue because she couldn't breathe.
Those first months, Kelly says, it was all about Charlie's survival.
And I just got to see her briefly when they walked by. They stopped for a second. I grabbed her hand, and that was it. And then I had to wait, several hours to recover before they let me go upstairs to see her.
For months, Charlie's little body fought.
Good girl.
Getting stronger. Until she could finally come home. It wasn't until Charlie turned 1 that Kelly realized she was now suffering from postpartum depression and PTSD.
I completely isolated myself from everybody, and it took me a very long time to realize what I was doing. It's hard to admit that you can feel so depressed after having a child that you're lucky is there to begin with.
Then this past December, Kelly says she hit rock bottom with constant suicidal ideations.
I did fantasize about it. I did think about how I would do it and what it would mean for my kids. And I honestly thought it was the best solution. And I left the house one day, it was the middle of the day, and it was too much. And I drove to the park and I called my best friend, thank God. And I finally said it out loud to somebody for the first time. And that was kind of the turning point for me, where I could see just long enough and clear enough to know that I needed to get to a doctor and I needed to see a therapist and I needed to really start investing in myself so that I could be there for her.
How do you feel today?
I mean, I have good days and bad days. Ta-da!
Each day, she says, brings progress thanks to medication and therapy.
There she is. She's a little tiny one.
For Jessica, she says depression stole the first year of her daughter's life.
And I felt cheated. I felt robbed, yeah.
She also tried antidepressants, but it was faith and time, she says, that eventually saved her.
It was about a year before I could look back and say, wow, that was really hard. I'm so glad that's over.
These mothers now sharing their stories, hoping it helps another mom who is struggling.
It was a very hard experience, for sure.
Knowing now there is hope, but it takes speaking up and getting help, they say, to move forward one step, one day at a time. Up to 85% of women will experience what's called baby blues after giving birth, but those symptoms are mild and temporary, unlike the feelings with depression, anxiety, OCD, and PTSD. If you need help, there are so many resources here in the Austin area, even if money is tight, and we've compiled a list of them in this story on our website. We've also shared dozens of other women's experiences so you can read them and understand that we need to break the stigma of mental illness, especially for new mothers. For KVUE News, I'm Chris Betts.